Okay, we're live. And first off, I'm going to say it from the start. This is obviously not my normal background. I'm in New York City, which probably no one will get that reference, but I'm away from home. I'm visiting some colleagues, but I'm still coming to you live for Twitch. So forgive us if there's any technical issues today, but I think we're going to be good. But Slava, how's it going?
Hey, Steph. Thanks. Doing very well, actually. So yeah, especially after the jokes prior to the session, so it's going cool.
It's so annoying because we don't record any of the pre-chat, which I sometimes wish we did, because sometimes we go off on some random tangents. But the best part is the dad jokes that no one gets to hear apart from our guests.
Maybe one time.
Yeah, and also great to note that we're wearing clearly a matching shirt, which is great. Okay, so we're gonna get started. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and I'm a senior optimization architect. And with me today, we have Slava. Do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Slava. I'm an AWS technical account manager. I'm working for AWS for the last couple of years, I believe. And what I do, I'm helping customers to succeed in their AWS journey.
Sweet. And so we are going to be talking to you all about today is row level security for the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard. If you don't know what that is, stick around and we'll be explaining all of that. You guys have probably heard of the Cloud Intelligence Dashboards. We mention them all the time. It's kind of a game to see how long it takes me to mention them. But yeah, we'll dive into that in a second. But just as a reminder, if you're watching us live, please feel free to ask questions, add comments, or if you're watching us on YouTube, comment underneath with what you think of the episode, any feedback or questions or topics that you want to see in the future. And don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's get into row level security. But before we do you want to give a brief sentence of what Cloud Intelligence Dashboards are in case anybody doesn't know?
Sure. So Cloud Intelligence Dashboards is a set of dashboards which help AWS customers to dive deep into their cost and usage and to find opportunities for improving their spend, their usage, maybe find some anomalies. And yeah, basically in a really short, that's what those are.
And if you haven't used these dashboards before, highly recommend, mainly for the purpose that you can just deploy them in your accounts in a very short amount of time with just some CloudFormation templates. And you have immediate dashboards, which you can mess around with, you can share, you can edit. One of my favorite things is that you can edit these dashboards and make them how you like. One of my customers thinks they're a bit too hectic. I can sometimes agree. There's quite a lot of data. And so they want to kind of cut down version and they're going to edit, take what they like and then remove what they don't. So yeah, just to throw that out there. So bringing on to data, a lot of customers can sometimes have too much data in the dashboards. They have an entire organization's worth of data. And so this topic is all about how to kind of narrow that scope. But do you want to talk about what row level security actually is, if people haven't heard of it?
Sure. So row level security is in general, I would say, an industry known term. It's about securing or limiting the access to the data based on some criteria. So basically, you're just matching some rows and saying only this folks or people or groups can see only this amount of data. So that's how you and the same thing is available in QuickSight. So we use this feature to limit the data a user can see, a CID user. And the reason we're doing this there are two reasons. One of them is to keep the user focused on the data which is relevant for them. Mm-hmm. And the second one is obviously security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big part, I think people, when you hear row level security, and I used to do this, I would always think it was like the security aspect, but when we speak to customers, it's less of that and it's more about that ease of access, about jumping in. And I like to think of it as reducing the amount of clicks a user has to go through. So rather, if you've been into the dashboards and you see, you can go in and you can filter by your accounts. But if you have to do that every day, it's annoying. You don't want to have to do that because developers are lazy. Speaking as an ex-developer, I can say that. I'm not calling anybody out. We don't want to have to do that. So yeah, adding this in really simplifies that process.
Yeah, and it's not only about the amount of clicks. It's also about when a user first time lands into the kudos, the user might be a bit confused. They'll see data which is not relevant to them, and this might end up as a negative small first kick, and they'll be hesitant into diving deeper into the dashboard. But if we are using this mechanism, what the user gets is they see only very relevant data to their accounts. They see only their accounts numbers. They see only the data which makes sense. So let's say they will not be provided with information, visuals, or suggestions which are not relevant to them. Mm-hmm. This really helps to adopt the culture of FinOps in our customers.
Mm-hmm. And I also like the aspect that when you jump into that data set, it's more impactful, especially around the optimizations. So at the moment, the one that we're going to show today is based on the Kudos dashboard, but the concepts can be applied to the other dashboards. But if you're jumping in and you're saying, okay, if you see an entire organization and they're spending, I don't know, $1 million a month, and then you go into your account and you're only spending like $200 a month. When it comes to optimization opportunities, you might be thinking, oh, me saving like $10 a month is nothing because we're spending $1 million. And so it kind of skews it. Whereas if everybody's got that number and you will make that saving, that adds up to a very large proportion. So kind of empowering people not to be necessarily comparative around how much they're spending can make them more inclined to perform optimization exercises.
Absolutely. I call it personally cost hygiene. So it doesn't matter the amount, it matters the percentage you reduce, and you always keep your things tidy. You can look at this from different aspects. I have customers and I have spoken to them and I have convinced them to look at cost and usage, not because of reducing their bill, because this for some reason wasn't the primary appealing, but what kicked with them was sustainability. You reduce the amount of the things you use and we don't spend that extra electricity for nothing. So, there is a lot of things into this.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've teased this concept enough. Do you want to share your screen? And what we're going to do while he's bringing that up is show you kind of what this looks like, what kind of data is going to be pulled out of it, and how you can set it up. Alongside this, there, of course, is a well-architected lab for both RLS and SSO that we're going to talk about. But we're just going to give you a bit of an insight into what this kind of thing looks like. All right. So I'm going to share your screen. There we go.
Perfect. Thanks. So what we're looking at right now is kind of your standard Kudos dashboard with all of your accounts. So here I have a test environment where I have a couple of pairs and I have about 200 accounts here. So when the user will log in, this is exactly what they will see. They will see some very generic data. And, as I mentioned, I have hundreds of accounts here. So, you don't want to, so the way this started is I was working with a customer and we wanted to achieve isolation of data and wanted to get a self-discoverable mechanism on how we are getting from a dashboard which is packed with data to a dashboard which is only contains the relevant data for a team or for a project. So the concept we came about for the self-discovery is, so we used AWS SSO. This is a screen which our users would see every day. This is normally what they would see. They would have some accounts, or they could have more accounts. And what we did, we added one more application here. So what happens, the user comes in the morning, they see a new blue icon, which is something different. Our users are curious. What they do is they go ahead and click on the icon. The icon also has a representative name, which says custom user dashboard. So they get even more curious. And when the user lands into the dashboard, now instead of seeing all of those hundreds of accounts and non-relevant data, they will see only the data of their accounts. So in this example here, I have a user with just 3 accounts, and then they can go and explore and analyze their cost and usage just to the things which are related to them.
Yeah, and to make that, like, you've chosen 3, that is a classic dev test prod for an application, which is another reason why this is so helpful. Is, I don't know about you guys, but when I used to run accounts, if I wanted to go and see data and I didn't have access to the payer, I'd have to go into each of the cost explorers to see that data, which is just, again, it's just annoying. That's what we're trying to avoid here. We're trying to simplify stuff and make seeing cost data more easy to do. And so just being able to jump in there and see there's all my accounts, I don't need to go anywhere. So much easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Should we speak about how customers manage to get there and how do they do that?
Yeah, let's talk about the deployment.
Cool. So before we speak about that, so how a standard RLS files would look like, which will help you to uh, separate who sees what, is something like this. So you can see, Steph, that it can get very fast, pretty confusing. It's a CSV file, which is intended to be written and read by machines, not by humans, actually. And, making it really simple, we have here 3 columns. We have a user, and we have rules to which accounts or which pairs this user has access. So what we've discovered with the customers in the past was that this type of approach works at the beginning, but it's prone for some mistakes and for some errors. Plus, someone needs a significant amount of understanding of what's a CSV file, how to upload it, and the process is pretty complex. So what we came out with was the approach to manage all of this via AWS organizations. So to decide and in order to control who has access where, an AWS user would come to the AWS organization in the AWS Web Console. And then basically by using a tag, they can grant access or put a base into the information which is going to be used to generate the RLS file. So give you an example, I can come to the very top of the organization and just apply a tag, which will be CID users, and give the user's email. And by doing so, this particular user, we have now access to all the cost and usage data of this organization. So we also can apply a tag at an OU level or at an individual account level.
And you speak about, just to clarify, that you inherit it, right? So if I'm at the root, I can see everything. If I'm at the OU, I can see the entire OU. If I see the account, I just see the account.
Right. So let's say I'm part of the security team and I need to give to staff access only to the security team cost and usage. So I'll come to the security OU. It has here some accounts. I will add the tag here, apply it, and within 1 hour, this will be reflected in the dashboard.
Perfect. And so we've got a couple of questions. They're generally more about kudos. So I'm just going to pull them up. So would it be possible to change the kudos analysis and be able to update it without breaking our changes, but merge them? So I think this question is asking if you are making a change, maybe adding a filter to your dashboard and you want to push it out there so it's a public dashboard, that will overwrite the changes that will overwrite it, and then that'll be your shareable dashboard. So that won't break anything, but you kind of run that. If you're running an actual update from the new versions of the dashboards, I'm not actually sure. So I would recommend emailing us at customization@amazon.com, and then we can link you in with the rest of the CID team to double check that on that question. And also, I mean, I don't know if you want to answer this one. Just wondering if cost categories could be included in Kudos, which would avoid selecting multiple accounts. I don't know if you know this already, actually, but I'll answer as well. Yes, you can. If you go on to the YouTube channel for the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard, then there is information about how to use cost categories in there. So yes, you can. Also,
go on. Pardon? I wanted to say that in general, the RLS approach would work, and you could use the same separation criteria using other fields. So, we could filter by tags, you could filter by cost categories, and so on. You can create rules. But what we see working so far for the customers we encounter is filtering by account.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So row level security is not something that we created, but this solution to using row level security is something that we created together. And the best part is that you can use our guide in the labs to understand how to set up and have a quick solution for it. But there are many other options that you can use. Like Slav said, there's tags that you can use. You can use groups if you like in QuickSight. There's a bunch of different options. This is just the one that we've seen customers liking the best. Yeah. Oh, so
and
one
it's
thing.
The most easy to use.
Yes, exactly, because it's pre-made, so it's out of the box solution. You can just deploy this to a Lambda function, which makes, I think, a lot of my customers' lives easier. Also, just want to shout out Rem. I'm in New York City, which is a joke because I was at the gym this morning. So if anyone follows me on Instagram at Live Like a Nerd, then you would have seen that. But yeah, sorry. Anyway, back to the demo.
Good. So what I wanted to show, so we noticed a user which has 3 accounts. I have another user which has access to more accounts, and if you open that user's Kudos dashboard, we will see the data for those accounts. So yeah, as you can see, I'll just give it a second to load. And now this user has an access to their accounts. One thing to note here, you'll notice that this user has more accounts than report in the dashboard. And this is something I want to do on purpose. And here is because we will have cases where a user will have access to accounts to do some AWS operations, and those can be 3 or 5 accounts, but we'll have a different type of user who shouldn't be logging into all of those accounts, but still wants to see cost and usage data of those accounts.
Right.
So here we have an example where a user can see the cost and usage of their entire team, which is, I think, something about 100 accounts I have here, but they have access only to 54 accounts. And this is to simulate a scenario where a user is part of, let's say, a testing team, and they have a big amount of accounts to test different, software in different environments, scenarios, and situations.
Brilliant. Did you want to showcase what RLS, like where you can actually find it in the data sets? Would we be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to, actually, Steph, let's make sure that we understand each other.
Okay.
When you say that to showcase the RLS, what exactly do you mean?
Oh, I just mean like the toggle, like what you're getting to. So like when you go onto data sets, and on the actual on the data sets themselves, you can see that little tick box that gets enabled if this is the right account.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So let's go to, in my case, I have all of my dashboards deployed in a different region. Usually we recommend to deploy in US East 1. I have them deployed in EU Central 1 just to cover more a different type of scenario. So yeah, after you apply RLS, so your typical data set looks like this. You have a Spice data set, but when you apply RLS, those data sets, which are protected by all our security, will have a small lock next to them. And applying RLS to a new data set would be as easy as click into the data set, click on the setup role level security, come here, select the CID RLS file, which has basically this data here. You can look at this as a CSV file, and then say apply data set, and it's done within a second, and your data set will be protected.
Awesome. And then the one that we've built, it comes off of an S3 file, right? Which is where that Athena, that'll get set up for you. So there's a bit of, the solution that we have, maybe good to explain, is part of it is automated and part of it is manual. The automated stuff is the stuff that happens every hour. Is that right? Every hour?
So it can be configured up to every customer. I think the default, yes, we have the Lambda to collect the data of the tags 1 hour. I would recommend to make it like something like 20, 30 minutes. The Lambda has short execution time, so it will not really impact your bill somehow. So yeah, that's the first part. And then the second part will be that we'll configure the data set in the quick site here to refresh itself every hour. So once you make the tag change, you can expect the change to be applied and reflected in the dashboard up to 1 hour.
That's right. Yeah, I realized I don't think I've shared the link to the lab, so that part of the lab anyway. But this is all in the customization section, so you can check it out there. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that bit's, and then yeah, like you said, this bit is only the bit inside QuickSight is a one-off setup. So that bit's a manual step at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll have it as automated, but just so that you know, as of time of recording. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to show visuals wise, or I think we covered everything?
I think we covered pretty much everything. So this one is, like it's really short. I think it's also worth mentioning that we have 2 labs. One is for SSO, and the SSO part is to make this application appear here. So this is the self-discovery part for your users. where you have a team, they never pretty much, let's say, invested time at looking at cost and usage because they think about this a very complex process. They have been looking at Cost Explorer, they got scared and they ran away. So if you want to start adopting the FinOps culture and, let's say, embrace the motto that cost and usage is responsibility of everyone, it's not the responsibility of just some of 2-3 top managers in your company who are paying the money. We really do think that cost and usage is responsibility to everyone. If you want to make this transition more easy, then I really recommend going with the self-discoverable approach.
Yeah, I really like that. Okay, cool. I'm just going to take that off. And I'm going to use an analogy ahead. And I think it's one of my new favorite analogies for this kind of thing that I'm stealing from Terry Crews, who's an actor from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if you've seen that. He's like he's a gym guy. I'm a gym person, so we relate. But he was talking about, I think it's him anyway, who he talks about going to a gym and treating it like a spa and like getting into the habit of going like twice a week, just going there. Don't have to do anything, but you wander around. Maybe you pick up the weights, maybe you get a glass of water. And then eventually by going, you will just start doing stuff. You will start picking up weights. You'll start going on the treadmill. You might join a class. You might chat to people. And that habit building kind of settles in. So it's not as much now, I have to go to the gym. It's like I'm going to go to the gym already, so I'm going to do something while I'm there. And I've started to think about the dashboards in a similar way, where I want people to go into them, maybe just to see their spend. Maybe out there, everyone who's watching, deploy these dashboards and challenge your devs to go and check how much they're spending last month. And they'll start to go in like once a month to check that. But they'll be curious. They'll say, well, there's all these like other tabs, like what's in them? And they start to click through them. And if they've got their data in, they'll be like, I'm spending how much on CloudWatch? What am I doing on CloudWatch? Or why is suddenly my EC2 spend go much higher than I anticipated, or the Lambda spend has gone out of control, or there's a recommendation here for Graviton. I've not heard of that. What's that? And that kind of habit building will mean that they're already in there. And so you're not pushing them to go and change their routine, just kind of allow them the freedom to go and search different things. And you never know what they might find. They might find something really interesting. They might look at the visuals through a different lens than maybe you or I might look through. Oh, question. What's your favorite visual on the Cloud Intelligence dashboards? Do you have a favorite visual?
Absolutely. I mean, because I use Kudos for work, so I'm looking at the most efficient visual from my point of view, which is month-over-month trends. Yeah. It's a really short visual where you can see quickly, what are your trends, where you should focus. And, speaking about cost and usage, I completely agree with you. And I'll tell you, we have stories of customers who discovered security issues because they started from the cost and usage. They discovered that they have a bucket. They started looking into that bucket. Why do they have data? We forgot we have this bucket. And then they looked at it, and then they realized, oh, this bucket has information which it shouldn't have, And speaking about security, CID dashboards, it's not only about cost and usage. We have also the Trusted Advisor dashboard, which will help to get insights about your security. It will warn you about your keys, which are not rotated. It will warn you about S3 buckets, which are public, and so on and so forth. So I completely agree with you. Start getting your users to look at these dashboards once a month, as you said, and these small things, they'll pile up and you'll create momentum and you'll have better understanding of your cloud.
And guys, if you're watching out there, put in the comments, what's your favorite Kudos visual? I love month over month. I didn't even know it was there until I think Aaron Adele showed me. But I also really like the Optics Explorer page, which is similar to Cost Explorer, but gives you like a bunch more options to do different levels of visuals, and also gives you that a bit of extra granularity. Now you have that resource ID. And if you're moving towards using Kudos for your cost visibility rather than Cost Explorer, again, that dev who logs in and now has dev, test, and prod all in the same place can just use Optics Explorer rather than Cost Explorer to kind of do their viewing.
Sure. And my second one, which is also, it just looks cool. And this is on the networking tab. There is a visual which helps you to visualize where you're shifting the traffic. So basically, you can really fast see, oh, most of my traffic goes, let's say, from US East 1 to EU Central 1. And again, this will generate curiosity. You want to figure out, oh, why? I didn't realize that. You'll go and start digging, and you improve your understanding of what you're doing and where and why.
Awesome. Oh, and someone's agreed. Bobcat, Optics Explorer is my go-to. Good choice of visual. Obviously, we're which way around is it? Biased, as it's named after our team. Sweet. Okay, there's a couple of things we wanted to touch on as well. We've got like 5 minutes left, but we wanted to talk about some gotchas, which are things to be aware of if you deploy these solutions. This is all on the labs, and it should be in a blog post that's coming out from us. And so I'll definitely mention that on the channel when that happens. But yeah, top of your head, what was one of the things that you need to remind people to be aware of when they deploy this lab?
Maybe the first one is that you have to use the email as user identification. And the reason we're doing that, because QuickSight will allow you to create multiple users with the same email, because you're logging in from SSO or as a YAM user and so on. And if by using email, we'll capture all of those users with the same email, and all of them will get the same level of visibility.
That's a good one, I think. And remind me, when you're adding emails to the account in the tag, is it semicolon or colon? It's not comma. I always think it's comma and it's not. What's the
semicolon?
Semicolon. Okay, thank you. That's a good one to note. And that has to be the same email address. I've definitely thought it was broken before, and I'm dyslexic and mistyped my own username, which is funny. The other one I would mention is it's immediate, right? So it's almost immediate. So if you enable row level security and someone is using that dashboard and you haven't got their email on a tag, they're not getting access to that dashboard. So if you were going to do this and you already have spread that dashboard out massively, please do testing. Please tell everyone it's happening, and potentially say kind of, oh, if you suddenly get access issues, email like whatever, whoever's deploying it. But yeah, it is really important that is a very quick impact. So just be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're someone will come to you and see it and will say, I have no data in dashboard. It's most probably they used to be a CID user. You didn't know about them probably. And because of RLS kicked in, now they see nothing.
Exactly. And kind of, I'll also add on to that the Lambda function that we've made, it runs at the moment, I think we said every hour. So if you make that tag and then you're expecting then an immediate change in the dashboard, you might not. You might have to wait up to an hour. You can also run that Lambda automatically, manually, and then refresh the data set. So maybe just check that before we get any panicked emails saying, I can't access stuff and I've tagged the name. What's happening?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. All right. In the last 2 minutes, anything else you want to share about the RLS solution or CID in general?
Start using it. Start using it. The story why you should use it, as I said, you help your users to have limited visibility. You'll create a self-discoverable mechanism. So, and when you have questions, and if you have any challenges or you have any suggestions, improvements, feel free to get in touch with us. We would love to hear your feedback and your suggestions for improvements.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know why you're using it. At the moment, there's a big conversation in the world of FinOps around enabling devs to do FinOps stuff themselves, and I think this plays a big part in it. There's showing access to your own data, like we've talked about already. So let us know. I love hearing success stories. Someone gave me some nice feedback for one of the other labs that they were using, which was great, which we always love to hear. So kind of we can keep doing this kind of stuff if everyone's using it. Okay, cool. All right, then. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll close up there. And next week we have underrated versus overrated cost optimization plays. So Savannah's hosting next week with a couple of people from Optics. Super excited about that. So let us know, maybe email us in advance. Do you have anything you think is overrated or underrated in terms of optimization? But yeah, cool. All right, thanks a lot. And we'll see you all next week.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.